You have big dreams of losing weight and creating a healthy, joyful life. But you find yourself craving sugar, caught up in what the scale says, and diet hopping. Dieting is the old way of losing weight. And the good news is I'm going to give you a new way of eating so you can ditch diets for good and build a healthy relationship with real food. My name is Megan Olson, certified nutrition practitioner, creator of Skinny Fitalicious, and your host of the Dish on Diets show.
Hello, friends. Today we're talking about a controversial topic. Can you not lose weight while being in a consistent calorie deficit? So last month I posted on my Skinny Fitalicious Facebook page this question: is it possible to eat in a calorie deficit consistently and not lose weight? And wow, I was really blown away by the responses and the arguments in the comments. 95% of the people in the responses got the answer wrong. And I truly did not realize how very badly this episode was needed. I've been working with clients for 10 years, and I really took it for granted that people understood how energy balance works, and I was wrong. For today's conversation, I'm really going to ask that you keep an open mind so you can learn and hopefully get unstuck if you are stuck and stop spinning your wheels. And hopefully this will help you with reaching your goals. But you do have to kind of open your mind and bring in the information so that you can actually hear what I'm saying. Because I think when I talked about this in my Facebook page, people just were not open to the conversation. So you may have some preconceived notions about this particular topic, and I'm going to share with you the scientific facts and some of the nuances around this to hopefully clear it up. But before we answer this specific question, I want to share with you how I even got here. I've been working with clients the last couple of months. Many of my clients have been in maintenance phases, and this one question kept coming up from clients over and over again. And the question was, am I going to gain weight going back to maintenance? And it seems so obvious to me, well, no, of course you're not going to gain weight going back to maintenance. You're eating at maintenance, maintain. Why would you think maintenance equals weight gain? Weight gain equals a surplus. And then, it just one day dawned on me. It was oh, wow, women really don't understand how this works. I had a conversation with a young lady a few months ago who doesn't have a gallbladder, and she was under the impression that because she didn't have a gallbladder, that her body was just automatically storing fat and causing her to gain weight. And I was like, this is not how this works. So just over the last couple of months, and then with this Facebook post, I was like, okay, women really lack kind of this basic understanding that I was just taking for granted, thinking everybody knew and understood. So let me see if I can explain this concept very simply for you. So before we get into answering the specific question about whether or not you can lose weight in a consistent calorie deficit and the nuances that go with it, let's just kind of break down some of the very basics, okay? Our bodies require energy to live. All the stuff your body does behind the scenes, liver function, digestion, pancreas function, hormone production, brain function, sleep, kidney function, reproduction, lung function, heart beating. Your body utilizes energy to perform those tasks that are vital to your survival. And if you were laying around in bed all day long, your body would still require energy to keep your organs functioning and all those processes going behind the scene. So your body requires energy, otherwise you cease to exist. Hopefully we agree on all this so far. Now, calories are simply a unit of measure. It's a measurement of how much energy is in a food or a drink. When you read a nutrition data label and it says 100 calories per serving, as an example, That means 100 units of energy. Now, yes, some foods are more nutritious, keep you fuller, give you more energy, and some are easier to overconsume. No doubt. But the bottom line is the composition of the calories don't have the same impact on us and don't offer us the same nutrients, the same fullness. But just for now, we're just going to talk about the energy part of it, not the composition of calories or nutrients. So body fat is just simply excess stored energy. That is all body fat is. Your body gets energy to perform its processes and tasks to keep you alive from the calories in the food you eat. Your body can also tap into stored body fat to use as energy. Additionally, your body can break down muscle and other tissues, but again, we're going to keep this super, super basic and simple so you can follow me and understand this concept. So basically, either your body gets calories from the food you eat, or it's going to tap into stored energy in your body fat to get the energy it needs to perform all the tasks and processes it does. Okay? Now let's use an analogy using your car. Imagine your car, and your car won't go anywhere without gas, right? Because gas is the energy that makes your car run. And yes, some cars use electricity these days, but for simplicity, again, let's just stick with gas in this example. Let's say you use all your gas to drive your car daily. All the errands and tasks you must do for the day requires you to use all the gas in your car. Otherwise, you cannot do what you need to do. So every morning you fill your gas tank to full to get all your tasks done. And then at the end of the night, your gas tank is on empty. And at the beginning of the next day, you have to refill it the next day. Your gas tank being at full and you using the entire gas tank for the day to do all your errands and tasks is like you being at maintenance. Your gas tank is not overflowing and it's not underfilled. It's at maintenance. And you're able to do everything you need to do each day on a full tank of gas. Now, let's say your gas tank always overflows. Every time you go to the gas station for whatever reason, you always have to bring another can with you to catch the overflow. Then you catch that overflow and you put it into an overflow can and you put that can in your car just in case you ever run out and you maybe might need it. And now over time, you've got like 10 or 20 overflow cans of gas in your car just in case. That's a surplus. So when you eat in a surplus, you just accumulate stored energy that you carry around just in case your body needs it. No different than if you were to carry the extra overflow cans of gas around in your car. Now let's say you only fill your gas tank to 3/4 of the way full. But you still need a full tank of gas to get all your tasks and errands done every day. What are you going to do now? You don't have enough gas. Now you have a deficit. You're only filling your car 3/4 of the way full. So in this scenario, you would tap into your overflow cans for the other 1/4 tank of gas you need. And over time, if you only filled your car 3/4 of the way full and filled the rest of your gas tank with the overflow cans, you would reduce the amount of overflow cans you have in your car, right? This is no different when your body is in a calorie deficit. In a deficit, you're eating, as an example, 3/4 of the calories, your body needs, something very moderate, nothing very extreme. But your body still needs to do all of its processes and tasks to keep you alive, and it requires a full tank. Where does your body get the other 1/4 tank of energy from? Stored body fat. And yes, it can get it from other tissues, but we're keeping this simple. So over time, if it's getting it from stored body fat, your body fat percentage is going to decrease, just like the cans of overflow gas would go down, because your body is using that stored energy to be able to maintain its processes and keep you alive, keep you at homeostasis. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, for those wondering, how do I not gain weight when I go back to maintenance? This is why. You're filling your gas tank back to maintenance. That's all. Maintenance. Maintenance. You are maintaining. You are restoring your body to the full level of what it requires to keep your body performing all of its daily functions. You are not in a surplus. Surplus is how you gain weight, not maintenance. Now, certainly, if you have lost a significant amount of weight, your maintenance is going to change. But again, we're keeping this really, really simple, okay? Hopefully, with this gas tank analogy, you can understand maintenance, surplus, and a deficit, and you can visualize it, and you can see you don't need to be scared of eating at maintenance. Maintenance, we're maintaining. You are simply restoring your body back to what it needs. A lot of women are scared that bringing their calories up to maintenance out of a deficit is going to result in weight gain. It's not. You are just restoring to maintenance, to homeostasis. You're not in a surplus. Hopefully you're all still with me, okay? Now, let's get back to the original question because this is what's really interesting. Is it possible to eat in a consistent calorie deficit and not lose weight? The answer is no. It's not possible, and the reason it's not possible is because it's basic physics. It's how our bodies work. If you believe the human body does not lose body fat in a calorie deficit, then you must think things like gravitational pull is made up, it's misinformation, and it doesn't exist. You must believe if you jump in the air, you're just going to stay in the air. Basic physics. I think what happens when you hear me say, can you eat in a consistent calorie deficit and not lose weight? You probably think of all the extenuating circumstances that change the question. Hormones, menopause, medical conditions, thyroid conditions, PCOS, autoimmune conditions, age, too much dieting. You begin to think of all these other nuances and things, and it still does not change the reality of science. You cannot gain weight while eating in a real calorie deficit. People who starve to death don't gain weight. No, that doesn't happen. The problem that most people have, and they don't realize it, is that they don't understand a real calorie deficit, like a real calorie deficit to their body versus a theoretical calorie deficit. And they don't understand that the calorie equation, if you will, is very nuanced. Many of the individuals who are commenting on this Facebook post kept saying things like calories aren't all that matters. Correct. Calories are not all that matter. And in fact, sometimes I think women focus way too much on calories and not enough on building muscle, building a supportive mindset, building sustainable habits, and building a lifestyle they can do until they're 85 years old. They're too focused on results and weight loss and calories. But listen, even if you have the slowest metabolism on the planet, you still cannot gain weight in a calorie deficit. And you can only lose weight in a calorie deficit. This is a scientific fact. I'm sorry for those of you who want to believe otherwise. I'm sorry, but it is a fact. Now, this is what you need to really listen to, because this is where a lot of people don't really understand where the disconnect is, okay? A lot of individuals go to like an online calculator or an app or sometimes a coach, and they were just kind of given a number. That number is a theoretical deficit. Let's say it's 1,600 calories, and you eat 1,600 calories on average consistently over 2 months, and you don't lose weight. What that means is you are not in a calorie deficit. You are in a theoretical calorie deficit. The theory did not work. It's a hypothesis. We're hypothesizing based on this online calculator or app that 1,600 calories is where you should be able to lose weight. And then we test the hypothesis by you eating 1,600 calories for a period of time. If you do not lose weight, then we conclude that 1,600 calories was not a deficit for you and your body. So when somebody says, I ate in a calorie deficit and didn't lose any weight, what that means is you are not actually in a calorie deficit. You are not in a real calorie deficit. You are in a theoretical calorie deficit. A theoretical deficit means nothing. A real deficit is where your body is responding, where your body is burning more calories than you are eating. Your body has no other choice than to tap into stored body fat for energy. We just talked about this with the gas in your car analogy. So let's say you're burning 2,000 calories a day and you're consuming 1,000 calories a day now. You're going on some diet and you're going to eat 1,000 calories, but your body really needs 2,000 to do all its tasks. For those of you who say calorie deficits don't work and calories don't matter, I just want to ask you, where is the other energy coming from to support your life? Where are the other 1,000 calories coming from? It's got to get it from stored body fat to create energy, which does result in weight loss. So no matter what circumstance you come up with, hormones, thyroid, age, menopause, autoimmune conditions, whatever it is, you cannot circumvent this scientific fact. You can say, I'm eating very few calories and not losing weight. The answer in those circumstances is that it has put you in a position where your body just does not burn that many calories. You have a very slow metabolism and you're burning way fewer calories. And unfortunately, that's the situation a lot of women I see in my nutrition practice are in. They're burning way few calories. You have a thyroid condition, you're burning fewer calories. You're in menopause, you might be feeling terrible, not sleeping, you're barely moving. You've lost a lot of muscle, it's likely. Maybe you haven't been strength training or eating sufficient protein. You're burning fewer calories. I mean, it all comes back to, no matter what thing you have, it all comes back to you're just burning fewer calories for whatever reason. So no matter what the extenuating circumstances are, it always comes back to you are burning fewer calories. And in addition to that, you may not be tracking your calories accurately. I see this literally all the time. People not tracking calories accurately. And it's because people just don't know. It's not your fault. You just don't know. So this actually happened with a client of mine recently. This client swore she was eating 1,500 calories. And so I asked her to use a food scale to weigh her food in grams and enter them in grams into a food tracking app for 2 weeks so we could audit her tracking accuracy. And she was somewhat resilient to it and couldn't understand why measuring cups and measuring spoons wouldn't be good enough. And I said, just humor me and do this so we can check the box and be sure the tracking that you're doing is accurate. Otherwise, we really don't know because measuring cups and measuring spoons are not accurate. Weighing things in volume is not accurate. And you know what happened? She was eating over 1,800 calories. She had no idea. She couldn't believe it. I could believe it because I see it all the time. People tracking things in volume instead of weight. The calories you see on food labels are a reflection of the weight of the food, not the volume of the food. The volume is an estimate. So it leaves a lot of room for errors and it makes a big difference. And when things are not happening, when you're not losing weight, you have to verify that your tracking accuracy is there. It's always the thing you have to do before blaming your hormones, blaming your age, and saying calorie deficits don't work. I swear, I mean, I'd be a millionaire if I had $10 every time I've seen this happen with a client. That's how frequently it's happened. It's even happened to me, and I do this for a living. I look at portion sizes all the time. I have a lot of practice in doing that, right? But it's happened to me. A couple times I made pork chops last year and I thought this is probably about 200 calories. And then just, for giggles, I weighed it on a food scale in grams, entered it into my food app in grams, and it was like 400 calories. I was off by 200 calories. Twice the calories. So if I can make these mistakes, I'm sure you're making these mistakes. I mean, think about this. If you eat 20 different foods that you're plugging into your food app every day, and each one has a tracking error like this, then it's no wonder you're not losing weight. Your calories are not accurate. The calories you think you're eating are not actually what you're eating. And you may be far from your theoretical calorie deficit, just like the client I just described. She swore she was eating 1,500 calories and was complaining, nothing's working. See, nothing's working, Megan. I'm doing all this work and nothing's happening. And she was super frustrated and she was really trying hard. She really was. But the problem was she wasn't being accurate. Right? She was really eating 1,800 calories, but she didn't know. She had no idea she needed to weigh things. How would you know? It's a very common mistake people make, and it's not something you just would know because apps don't tell you this when you sign up for the apps. So unless you're a nutritionist or you've worked with a nutritionist, you would have no way of knowing that you need to use a food scale to verify your tracking accuracy. It's a very simple mistake that you can make. But again, it comes back to the fact that you're actually not in a calorie deficit. This is why you're not losing weight. The tracking accuracy means you're way over in your calories and you're not actually in a deficit. Now, if we continue with the example of eating 1,000 calories and burning 2,000 calories, your body will downregulate at some point. This is called adaptive thermogenesis. Your metabolism downregulates and slows down from you dieting. I've talked about this a million times on this podcast. Stop dieting so much and stop chasing weight loss all the time because you're slowing down your metabolism. The Optavia podcast, which I'll link for you in the show notes, that podcast I shared a very clear example of how this happens and why it's so important to be careful about how you go about weight loss. A lot of women are literally making it harder and harder and harder to lose weight. And this is why weight loss gets slower and slower and harder for many of you. It's not starvation mode because starving people don't gain weight or maintain their weight. People dying of starvation, like in Africa or concentration camps, are literally withering away. This is not starvation mode. It's called adaptive thermogenesis. Your metabolism slows down when you diet too much or crash diet, and it's just your body's way of preserving your life. You will lose muscle, you will have increased hunger, and a bunch of other side effects as a protective mechanism for your body to try to keep you alive. Adaptive thermogenesis, again, means you are burning way fewer calories, and your maintenance is probably downregulated. But it doesn't change the fact that you still need a calorie deficit to lose weight. So let's say your metabolism downregulates all the way down to 1,000 calories per day. What was once a well-functioning metabolism that was burning 2,000 calories per day is now a very slow metabolism that has adapted and is only burning 1,000 calories a day, and now you're eating 1,000 calories. 1,000 calories is now your new maintenance, because your body has adapted. This is why many individuals easily regain weight when they crash diet. It's because your adapted maintenance is now 1,000 calories. And if you eat above 1,000 calories, now you are in a surplus. This is exactly why we don't crash diet and exactly why we don't stay in calorie deficits for too long, because of this adaptive mechanism your body has. It makes it really easy for you to regain weight. Eating too little and crash dieting puts you in a very susceptible position to regain body fat at a future date. But that doesn't circumvent the science of a calorie deficit. This is where many women don't get it. They don't get that their new maintenance is 1,000 calories. So in order for them to lose any weight, they would now have to eat 800, 700, 600, 500, close to nothing in order to be in a calorie deficit. That would be your new calorie deficit. And it's unlikely you're going to be able to do that. And it's not something I recommend either, which is why putting yourself in this situation in the first place is something you should try to avoid at all costs. And this is where women will say things like calorie deficits don't work. Calorie deficits do work. You've just put yourself in this position where your metabolism has downregulated, and now your new calorie deficit would be a ridiculously low number. If you are eating in a real calorie deficit for your body, it is impossible to gain weight. The only outcome is weight loss, because where else is the energy coming from? It can only come from stored body fat. But what about PCOS? What about menopause? What about perimenopause? What about my age? What about this hormone? What about that hormone? What about hypothyroidism? I have an autoimmune disease. These were the majority of the comments in the Facebook post. Here's the thing. If you do have certain conditions, hypothyroidism, an autoimmune disease, you're in perimenopause or menopause, or you have some other condition going on, that's exactly why you shouldn't be chasing weight loss and dieting and living in a calorie deficit most of the time. That's exactly why you should spend more time in maintenance. That's exactly why you should spend more time building muscle and eating adequate protein. That's exactly why you should build healthy habits that are sustainable that you can do until you're 85 years old. I see a large number of women in my nutrition practice who are super frustrated, who have put themselves in this exact position, and it's why I've been so outspoken about women needing to stop dieting. Women needing to work on building sustainable habits that they can do until they're 85, working on building muscle, working on sleep, eating adequate protein and fiber, eating fruits and vegetables, getting steps, working on the basics. This is why I always say, don't be chasing fat loss all the time. Don't be slashing your calories so drastically. Don't do wacky diets like Optavia or Physicians Weight Loss or other programs that are putting you on extremely low calories. Because these programs and diets are literally making it very easy for you to regain weight and much harder for you to lose weight in the future. This is also why I stress to my clients that they have to take maintenance as seriously as they take their calorie deficit. Eat all your calories and spend a good amount of time in maintenance. The common behavior I see is women continuing to eat at their deficit and pretending to be in maintenance. If 1,000 calories was their calorie deficit, they continue eating at 1,000 calories and just kind of stay there. That is working directly against you. It's causing your metabolism to downregulate and making it harder. If you stay in your deficit for a short period of time, your metabolism is not going to adapt. That's why it's so important to get back up to maintenance. And a lot of my clients kind of get scared. They're scared they're going to gain weight going back to maintenance. Maintenance is maintaining. I don't understand why we think we are going to gain weight in maintenance. You gain weight in a surplus, not in maintenance. Remember the gas tank analogy I spoke about earlier. This is exactly why I'm talking about this with you today, because I think a lot of women just don't understand this. So I'm trying to help clear this up. But, you are literally making it harder to lose weight if you are doing some of these things. And I'm trying to help you see how you are making your journey harder so that you're aware and you can avoid doing these things. Because some of the women that I see who get into these pitfalls, they're in a very frustrating place, understandably. And I don't think that they teach you this like fundamental basic at Optavia or Weight Watchers or Noom or Jenny Craig or whatever big box diet name you're doing these days. The sad thing is these diet programs know exactly what they are doing to you and your metabolism. They know they're doing this to you. There have been plenty and plenty of studies that show it. They know they are down regulating your metabolism. They're doing it to you, and then they're like, come back so I can take your money again and put you on the same diet and put you in even a worse position. It should be outlawed because they know what they're doing to people. And when I posted this question on Facebook, I really just wanted to see if people understood this basic science, because I suspected, based on what I was hearing from clients and, what I was hearing from women in consultations, that a lot of people just didn't understand this. 95% of the people who responded to that Facebook post got the answer totally wrong. So there is this huge, gross misunderstanding in the general population about how energy balance works and how metabolic adaptations make losing body fat more difficult. Calorie deficits do work. Unfortunately, your real calorie deficit is probably way lower than where it should be because of all the dieting you've done and because of some of your conditions. It sucks. I know, it sucks. I'm in that position too. I have an autoimmune disease. I have hypothyroidism. I'm in perimenopause, so I have some of these issues as well. You're not the only one. One woman actually in the comments of that Facebook post, she told me she eats nothing and starves herself and she gains weight. And I challenged her on this. I said, were you eating 0 calories? If so, how long were you eating 0 calories? How was it possible you starved yourself and you survived? Interestingly, she never responded to my question. I think she actually deleted her comment. Probably because she wasn't actually eating 0 calories. I mean, I have no doubt she was eating probably very few calories, and she was super hungry. But that is way different than telling somebody you were starving and eating nothing. I mean, I think sometimes we over-dramatize instead of stating facts. Again, if it were possible to gain weight while eating in a calorie deficit, starving to death would not be a thing. Starving is absolutely not what I recommend you do, though, to lose weight. I do believe that, a lot of women try to do that and it backfires. And I also do believe that starving to death is a hypothesis that's been confirmed a couple times over. So we're pretty confident in, society that if you starve, you're going to die. If you stop eating completely in a certain matter of time, you are going to cease to exist. But if your body was somehow able to hold on to body fat while you eat nothing, you would survive. But that's not how it works. And I've never met anybody who's been able to do that. So, yeah. Earlier this week, I actually spoke to a woman in a consultation and explained to her adaptive thermogenesis. She had been eating 1,000 to 1,200 calories for a very long time. And she said to me, that's an interesting concept. And I said to her, it's not a concept. It's a scientific fact. I mean, how have we gotten to this place where scientific facts, people don't believe them? It's just incredible. It blows my mind. Adaptive thermogenesis is a scientific fact. It's been proved over and over again. Metabolisms downregulate. Again, I am not stating by no means that you should starve yourself. I am also highly recommending, if you are in a calorie deficit, that you get out of it and only stay there for a short period of time and then go back to maintenance and take maintenance seriously. And anyone who tells you to just eat in a calorie deficit until you get to your goal weight, run. You shouldn't be listening to them. I also think, telling someone who's been struggling to lose weight to just eat in a calorie deficit isn't very helpful advice. We have to talk about behavior change, not just like being in a calorie deficit. But that was not the question I actually asked on Facebook. I didn't ask, how do you lose weight? How do you change your behavior? I asked, is it possible to eat in a calorie deficit consistently and not lose weight? And the answer definitively is no. Does eating in a deficit too long, too frequently, and too extreme make gaining weight easier? Absolutely. Does eating in a deficit too long, too frequently, and too extreme make it harder in the future to lose weight? Absolutely. Do certain health conditions like hypothyroidism, autoimmune diseases, certain phases of life like perimenopause and menopause and other hormones make it more challenging? Of course it does. Does that mean you have to be more intentional? Yep. Does that change the science? No. Because you cannot eat in a real calorie deficit and gain weight or maintain weight. It's not possible. The two most common reasons why you're not losing weight in a calorie deficit are these. Number one is you're not actually eating what you think you're eating. Like the client I mentioned to you earlier who swore she was eating 1,500 calories, but she was really eating 1,800. She wasn't eating what she thought she was eating. Food scales. If you are tracking calories and nothing's happening, you need to use a food scale to verify your data. Measuring cups and measuring spoons are not that accurate. You can get away with it. Some people can, sure, but some people need to be more dialed in. Checking your accuracy is always the first thing you have to check. Accuracy and consistency, because sometimes people are also not as consistent as they think. So number two is you're eating in a theoretical deficit. You're eating what you say you're eating, and you know how many calories you're eating, and you verified your data with a food scale, but it's just not a deficit for your body. Could be that you have adaptive thermogenesis, or it could be your body is just burning fewer calories than an online calculator or app because of certain health conditions, thyroid hormones, lack of activity, loss of muscle mass, all those kinds of things. So it's really important to understand this scientific fact, and hopefully this is good news for those of you who've been stuck and wondering why. I don't know why this would be bad news for anyone. There's nothing wrong with you if you felt like nothing's worked for you or you felt like your calorie deficit never worked. Now you understand how this works. Now you understand adaptive thermogenesis. I mean, how would you know about adaptive thermogenesis or a theoretical calorie deficit unless you went to nutrition school? It's not your job to know this. That's why I'm clarifying this for you so you understand how this works. I mean, I had no idea that this Facebook post would create so much confusion and honestly a lot of outrage. The majority of people, like I said, 95% of the people who commented on that post said, yes, absolutely, you can eat in a calorie deficit and never lose weight. Or you can gain weight. Some of them were saying that you can gain weight in a calorie deficit. That is absolutely scientifically not true for all the reasons I stated today. Adaptive thermogenesis, theoretical calorie deficits, and not eating what you say you're eating. Truthfully, this is why I focus a lot with my clients on behavior change and not on calories. Creating healthy, sustainable habits they can do until they're 85 years old to support their health long term, as well as helping them with their mindset and a mindset that supports these sustainable behaviors and habits. And yes, I do help my clients lose body fat and get them into a calorie deficit, but I do that in an easy and reasonable way that isn't strenuous on the metabolism. And my clients only do it for a short period of time because I don't want to put them in a compromised state. By the time most of my clients get to me, most of them have already put their bodies through a compromised state unconsciously, just because they didn't know. Now, some individuals want there to be some magical fix or something they're missing. I must be missing something. But the only thing they're missing is changing their behavior. You know, if you want to lose weight permanently, you have to actually change your behavior. You have to put structure around your meals. You have to think about what you're going to be eating ahead of time, not just winging it. You have to put some intention behind your meals, how you get some ingredients and food in the house. You have to put some intention around how you move your body, how you get to sleep, how you strength train. You have to change your behavior. You can't do what you do right now necessarily. Something's going to have to change. And I think a lot of people want there to be something else. They don't want to work on those things. They don't want to do those things. They avoid those things. And a lot of people tend to focus on like the supplements, a gut protocol, balancing their minerals, cutting out certain foods, looking for specific apps to use. I mean, if you can't change your behavior, none of those things matter. If you can't be consistent with your nutrition, none of that other stuff matters. You always have to change your behavior first. I had a client, many years ago who did something very similar to the client I mentioned today, the one who thought she was eating 1,500 calories, but was actually eating 1,800. And this client made the same exact mistake. Like I said, a lot of clients have made this mistake. She wasn't using a food scale. And also the other thing was her steps were very, very low. And steps are incredibly important when you're trying to lose body fat. I mean, they're always important for your health, but when you are specifically trying to lose body fat, steps become even more of a focal point. And so not only was this client eating way above her calories, but her steps were super low. So we reviewed the data and she understood her next step was to work on these two things. And I explained to her how it aligned with her goal of losing body fat. And then 2 weeks later, she emailed me saying she was going to the doctor to have her thyroid meds adjusted and how she was going to ask her doctor why she was gaining weight and see if her doctor could help. And I emailed her back reiterating that the reason she's gaining weight is because she's eating above her calories and her steps are very low. And I reminded her that her doctor is not a nutritionist. Doctors get 2 classes in nutrition. This is an example of someone not changing their behavior and who had the mindset that there must be something missing. There must be some other magical fix when the only thing missing was her changing her behavior. And the good news is she eventually came around and understood she couldn't avoid doing the work any longer. But some people are just forever on this search for the missing thing. I call this shiny object syndrome. You're always looking for the next thing to try or do or what might be missing. But all you're doing is avoiding changing your behavior. Your behavior is consistent with not being consistent. You have to actually change your behavior if you want permanent weight loss and healthy habits you can do until you're 85 years old. And the basic boring stuff I talk about all the time works. Now, it can be tricky figuring out where your real calorie deficit is. And sometimes there is some trial and error in that process, but that's why we get help when we get stuck. It's like when something breaks on your car, do you search on YouTube for how to fix it yourself, or do you take it to a mechanic to fix it? I mean, maybe if you've been stuck for a while, consider getting some help. Nobody expects you to know how to do this on your own, okay? So anyways, I hope that all of this kind of clarifies this topic today, and feel free to ask me questions and send me questions if you have any. I can't give you individualized coaching, so if you send me your whole life story in an email and want me to tell you what to do, I'm not going to be able to do that. That's more of a coaching question, but if you've got like something you'd like to clarify and understand, feel free to send that my way. Okay, one last thing before we leave today. I am going to be doing a cookbook giveaway every month starting in April of 2024 and ending in December of 2024. So once a month, April through December of 2024, once a month, I'm going to announce a winner on the podcast. So to enter the giveaway, here's how you do it. Go to the Apple Podcast and click on the thumbnail for this podcast, The Dish on Ditching Diets, and leave a 5-star rating and review of this podcast. Make sure you leave the written review so I know who you are, because it'll give the username on the written review. Otherwise, with the rating, I will have literally no idea. You don't have any username identified. It just has a bunch of numbers. So if you just leave a rating, I'm just not going to know who you are and that you did it. So make sure that you actually leave a written review. Your chances of winning are probably pretty high because I'm going to be doing it once a month. So each month I'm going to randomly select a winner, and I'll send the winner a copy of my cookbook. Anyways, so that's exciting, and that's something fun that we're going to do for the year. Anyways, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you sharing the podcast and following along. I hope that this was helpful, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, you have to come check out my free weight loss class. It's the 5 steps to lasting weight loss, how hormones impact weight loss, and the truth about lasting weight loss without relying on willpower, workouts, or deprivation. Click the link in the show notes to watch that free class today. And if you are a woman over 35 with 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose, schedule a free weight loss breakthrough session with me after you watch that class, and let's talk about your 20 to 50 or more pound weight loss plan.